I'm here at the iconic Channel 4 building for the Diversity in Advertising Conference. I'm here with the TV Collective. Now, we're not going to be able to bring you inside, but we're hoping to catch up with some people after just to get their points of view. Now, we're here for the Diversity in Advertising event this evening. Can you tell us a little bit about what you expect to get out of this event?
It's basically to make sure that all our suppliers that supply any kind of spots within Channel 4 have the same kind of alignment and the same outlook and vision in terms of diversity and inclusion as Channel 4 does. And so we encourage all our suppliers to get on the alignment of why it's important to have representation, authentic portrayal, inclusion within the advertising industry so that it reflects Britain and it has a greater thought of what Britain can be in terms of cohesion when it's aligned with another remit, just like Channel 4's remit of diversity and inclusion.
Are some brands more receptive?
Well, some brands always do the same thing that they've always done, and so, they take the ethos, if it ain't broke, why are you trying to fix it? But having that kind of an idea will inevitably come up with problems, and problems that we've seen in the advertising world where people are horrified of the faux pas that have been made. It's not about being resistant, it's about actually not thinking about what it is you're doing. So we have all the tools already to actually create a very full and rich, diverse and inclusive environment. It's our mindset that we actually haven't sorted out, and that's what makes it difficult or sticky in order to kind of like pull advertisers in, that you have to think about it. It's time.
Just come out of Diversity in Advertising Conference, and Karen Blackett mentioned that only 2 advertising agencies have signed up to the Race at Work Charter. Why do you think this is?
From my perspective, I hadn't heard about it until today. So I think these things perhaps need a little bit more visibility or a little bit more promotion, because now I'm aware of it, I'm going to go home and have a look at it. I'm not sure how many people have actively chosen not to do it. Maybe there are some. I don't know. So I can only speak for myself in that I wasn't aware of it until today, but I'm glad it's been brought to my attention.
And I think that there's probably a bit of that, quite a lot of that potentially, but I think that also there's an element of, if you know that your race at work is not fairly represented, that there's an element of fear that you don't actually want to shine a light on it, because what does that then mean for your organisation? How do you address it? It seems like too much to kind of tackle, so it's people shy away, I think, and we need to make it more visible and actually kind of shine the light on the importance of signing up to the Race at Work Charter, and hopefully that would improve things.
It could also be a case of the staff within those organisations applying a certain amount of pressure to say, actually, why aren't we?
Agreed.
And if that's an active decision not to be, I think the best people to change that are the people within that organisation that want to see a change.
Agreed, because I sit on the steering group of an organisation called the Creative Industries Alliance, which Karen and Alex are both executive sponsors for that group, and when we had our launch event, it was the first time I'd heard about it, to be honest with you, the Race at Work Charter, and Karen put a call out to everybody that was in the room then, which was all the major broadcasters, other organisations within creative industries, and the first thing I did was come back to work and was like, are we signed up for this? And Channel 4 are signed up to it, but I hadn't heard of it prior to that, and I think that was when we got signed up. So yeah, visibility is definitely key.
I thought the event was very good. I thought Karen Blackett's keynote was brilliant in terms of really setting the context, but I also loved the fact that it was titled like "We Need to Change." So you immediately go in with a kind of, this is what needs to happen, and there were some very tangible and practical things for agencies, broadcasters like to do. I actually wish, I don't know who was in the audience, but I wish there were more senior folk from ad agencies specifically to hear that presentation. And then being on the panel, just the diversity in voices, so we all 4 of us had very different roles and very different, I guess, aspects and ways into the advertising industry, but also ways we interact with the industry now. And I thought that made for a very good discussion, not to mention actually having Jonathan from Channel 4 there, because he could say, actually, Channel 4 is doing this, we still need to do more about it. And it was quite a positive conversation, where sometimes these can be quite negative and, well, quite depressing actually, given what the state of diversity in the industry.
What I liked mostly about it was that it was very solution focused.
So while we were having that discussions around things, it was very much about what can we do, and there were really tangible solutions that people were bringing forward, which I think now, I don't know specifically who was in the audience, but people can go on and sort of use those and think about how, if they were senior people, how they can actually start to, incorporate those things within their, own industry. So I thought that was great.
The more people express, their experiences, express the fact that ultimately, as Karen said, you target a more diverse audience. You grow the GDP, which if you need numbers there to sort of convince brands, then there it is. It certainly affects creativity. The more diverse you are, then the more relatable it is. So I think being okay to be uncomfortable, to talk about that, is actually a good thing.
Has anyone seen the IKEA advert with
Yeah, we were talking about it. We all love it. We were like, yes.
Absolutely love it. I love grime anyway, so I guess I'm slightly biased there. But I love that it's IKEA. I love that they are actually challenging. It's so clever, in the way they've done it. And it's at Christmas. Who would have thought you'd see that at Christmas? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I've heard anyone that's had anything negative about it, but they probably have.
Absolutely, love the fact that it's every day, and it's not. So what you're not seeing, it's not a specific black storyline, like the black people. It's not that at all. It's just a family. The things and everything around it is things that everybody can relate to. These old tired ornaments, it just and just having the soundtrack. It just is so unexpected, but just so. I love the fact that it is everyday and commonplace and just a reflection of what happens in society now. There's no special effort to be like the black thing or whatever.
Relatable. Yeah,
it's
totally
completely relatable for any number of people.